You're not surprised one bit to see that clip I used to bump into you of what's happened in Minneapolis once they have lost, as that tick, 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 tick was showing us, some almost 400 cops. They went from 892 to 513 police there. It's happened in city after city after city.
Well, crime went up, and the George Floyd year of the George Floyd race riots, homicides went up 29%, which was the largest increase in history in this country. Last year, violent victimizations were up 75%, which is the most in 30 years. That's according to the National Criminal Victimization Survey. We have unleashed anarchy upon American cities, Megyn. We have seen the videos of the lootings. We've seen the videos of the beatings. We've seen the videos of the shopliftings. And yet America continues turning its eyes away from the inner city dysfunction that is leading to this and to the absolute demoralization of the cops. This documentary is very important because America does have a tendency to want to forget. And the footage of the arrest, which I'd never seen before, the minutes, the agonizing minutes when this went on, is extraordinarily depressing to see George Floyd, who is the embodiment of inner city pathologies, and then to see the arson, the firebombing, the grotesque, self-interested, narcissistic, entitled looting that spread across the land. We cannot let this be forgotten because it shows what happens when you demonize the cops based on a completely phony narrative. Here's another statistic, Megyn. A police officer is 400 times more likely to be killed by a black male than an unarmed black male is to be killed by a cop. So if, as we hear from the libertarians all the time, like Radley Balco, who says, oh, all this belly aching about how dangerous it is to do felony car stops, this is really a safe profession. Well, if it's so safe to be a cop, then being a black male, an unarmed black male vis-a-vis police officers is 400 times safer. So the whole Black Lives Matter narrative that our president, Joe Biden, constantly reinforces is a 100% falsehood.
And it's tentacles. The tentacles of that movement are getting people killed every day, largely in Black communities where crime is running rampant and no one seems to care. But in the entire United States, there was a case just yesterday or this week that I saw involving a girl named Jillian Ludwig. This is horrific. Jillian Ludwig was a university student. She was at Belmont and she was shot 2 blocks from campus running in the middle of the afternoon in a park. The defendant is a man named Shaquille Taylor. She's white, he's black. He was in jail earlier this year. The DA's office said 3 doctors deemed him mentally incompetent to stand trial, meaning he could not be prosecuted. Guess what they did? They let him go. They sent him right back out onto the streets without a care for safety. This is in one of those jurisdictions with a Soros-funded DA who has zero appetite for prosecuting crime, in particular crime committed by young men who happen to be black.
Well, the entirety of what's going on, the travesty that is our criminal justice system today nationally, in city after city with these progressive prosecutors declaring off limits entire categories of crime like shoplifting or fare beating or most preposterously and dangerously resisting arrest, it cannot be understood unless you understand disparate impact. It is all about avoiding disparate impact on Black criminals. That is the only reason why we have police chiefs telling their cops, don't make car stops, don't stop for petty theft. It's why prosecutors aren't prosecuting. It's why judges are letting people back on the street. But the fact of the matter is, you cannot enforce the law in a colorblind constitutional matter without having a disparate impact on Black criminals because the crime rates are so high. Because we have more Blacks in prison does not mean we're a racist criminal justice system. It means that the inner city culture is right now in a very, very bad state. Boys are not being socialized. They are engaging in these barbaric drive-by shootings that are taking dozens of young Black children's lives, none of whom have ever once been commemorated by Al Sharpton or Benjamin Crump. Never once has a Black Lives Matter activist said, say their names. Instead, this is another tragedy of our period, of our time, Megyn. Our civil rights heroes now are today thugs like George Floyd. I'm not going to mince my words because you don't either. He was a thug. He beat up women. He was a drug dealer, had a long felony record. He's now our civil rights hero. That's very tragic. That is a very, very far distance from the noble civil rights warriors who sat in patiently, passively, nonviolently, wearing suits, wearing ties to bring this nation up to its highest ideals. Now we have our activists pulling down any standard that has a disparate impact on Blacks. And that is a recipe not just for the loss of Black lives, but for the loss of an entire civilization.
I was telling the story of what happened with my daughter in the 4th grade when they tried to speak truth about what happened with George Floyd, raising some of these issues. Got shut down. Roland Fryer, Harvard, the worst case of this is a Black man, a scholar who took an honest look at police-involved shootings involving Black men and didn't come up with the right narrative, Heather, and they've ruined his career.
Well, Derek Chauvin is a martyr to white obsession with blaming themselves. I mean, we have this narrative that says the biggest problem in this country is white supremacy. You have the FBI saying the biggest violence problem is white supremacy. Are you kidding me? Black juveniles in the post-Floyd era are shot at 100 times the rate of white juveniles because they're being shot by other Blacks at 100 times the rate, at least, of what white juveniles engage in gun violence. Blacks die of gun homicide between the ages of 10 and 24 at 24 times the rate of whites in that age cohort. All of this is because of Black crime. And yet we're supposed to pretend that the problem is whites, and elite whites go along with it. You know, the crime that you mentioned of this young girl, the reason we're not talking about it, the reason that's not on the air is because it's the usual Black on white crime. That is the reality of interracial violence today, Megyn. Blacks commit 87% of all interracial violence between Blacks and whites and Blacks. A Black is 35 times more likely to commit a violent crime against a white than vice versa. And yet we are engaged in this massive suicidal falsehood, which says that whites are the problem.
Thanksgiving is 1 week away. It's time. We got to get on our horse. I mean, it's time. Thanksgiving is 1 week away. That means the best Genucel sale of the year. Yay. And just in time for the holidays, the Genucel most popular package is back for you to look stunning for your Thanksgiving gatherings. And with the brand new Genucel 3 also included, you could look 10, 15, even 20 years younger with the best natural skincare anywhere. This is one of the things I love about the Genucel products. They're not riddled with like weird perfumes. They're clean. The packaging is lovely. It's elegant. They don't overwhelm you with a bunch of scents and all that stuff. Sunny from Rockford, Illinois knows. She wrote in, I will give Genucel 5 stars because the products they send do exactly what they promise to do. It's working. Take advantage of the Genucel best sale of the year and say goodbye to fine lines, crow's feet, bags and puffiness, laugh lines, and dark spots. Look and feel your absolute best or you get your money back. No questions asked. Go to Genucel.com/MK podcast for better than 70% off on Genucel's most popular package with Genucel 3 and Dark Spot Corrector. And for results in 12 hours or less, you get the immediate effects product included for free. Genucel.com/MK, Genucel.com/MK podcast. If you could include MK podcast, that would let them know that you heard of us here. And go there now for a free upgrade to priority shipping. GENUCEL.com/MK podcast. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.